Welcome to Mobile Rolling. Today we have a very special guest. We have Katrine Hildyard, the Member of Parliament, the member for Raynell, and we'll be back in after this short break to find out all about Katrine, her life and what she does. Thank you. Welcome back to Mobile Rolling, and I'm joined by Katrine Hildyard, the Member of Parliament, the member for Raynell. She's the Shadow Minister for Multicultural Affairs. She's also the Shadow Minister for the Status of Women, and probably in our line, she's the Shadow Minister for Recreation, Sport and Racing. Welcome, Katrine.
Thank you.
Thank you for such.
Thanks. Viewers out there, lovely to be with you.
First of all, I suppose most people would have seen your presence as in the former government and now in opposition. Maybe you would like to tell us how you came to be in Parliament, what you used to do, what your interests are and stuff like that.
Great, thank you very much. And again, thank you for having me on and for your interest. I feel incredibly proud and privileged to be a Member of Parliament and to represent our community, to have served in the former Labor government and to be a Shadow Minister now. A lot of people ask, where my passion to be a Member of Parliament came from, and I always reflect that it really came from my very early years. I grew up in a household where things were quite difficult a lot of the time, and had a very, very strong, very fabulous mum who, no matter what was happening in our household, always taught us to be very active in our community and to, no matter what was happening for us, to reach out and see what was happening for other people. From those early experiences, I developed what I call my relentless passion for fairness, and also from my mum encouraging us to get involved in our community. I really saw that when we are active in our communities, when we work together as a community, we have the best chance of making things fair for as many people as possible. And I also saw that in all of the different community groups, in sporting groups, music groups, drama groups, all sorts of different groups, surf lifesaving, that there are lots of people in our community that are there to include people as part of a great big community family. My mum very much encouraged us all to be active in different sports and surf lifesaving. I would like to say I played in almost every single code, but it's probably better if I say I participated in almost every single code is probably a much better description of what I did. But by being involved in sport and surf lifesaving, I saw that there are communities in clubs of every code right across our state that are there for people, that look after people, that want to support young people to do and be their best. And that passion for strong, fair communities has stayed with me, and it drives me in terms of my desire to make sure that people in our community have a voice, are treated fairly, have that sense of belonging.
So, were you brought up in the southern suburbs of Adelaide, or where were you?
So in the southwestern suburbs. So I grew up in Netley. Yep. And went to Plympton High School, yep. Not too far from the Morpheville Racecourse. And I grew up mostly with my mum and my brother and two sisters. And as I said, we were very active in our community. Other members of my family were far more successful in sport than I was. Oh, well. But my mum also, the other thing she did for us is she taught us the value of speaking up when things weren't fair. And I learnt from her to speak up when things weren't fair for myself. But really importantly, along my journey of representing people in our community in different ways, I've learned that the most important thing is to, yes, speak up for yourself, yes, to speak up for other people, but most importantly to actually empower other people's voice. And that's what I love doing as a Member of Parliament.
So how long have you been in Parliament, and what did you do prior to Parliament, and how long have you been in Parliament? And obviously you love serving the community.
Absolutely.
So so how long have you been the member? And
So I had the privilege of being elected in 2014. And immediately before being in Parliament, I ran a community organisation. I was the CEO of a community organisation called Together SA, which brought a whole lot of different people and groups together in communities to work together on some of the most difficult problems facing those communities. Before that, I was with the Australian Services Union. I ran the Australian Services Union, and again, that is a place that really taught me the value of empowering other people's voices, bringing people together to speak up for what was fair for them. Represented lots and lots of different industries through that union, the community sector, local government, energy, airlines, very broad. Yeah, broad.
So now that you're the Shadow Minister for Sport, Recreation and Racing, you are aware of, I was formerly the chairman of Harness Racing SA, and I know that you've had some dialogue with the board and members and disgruntled people. So do you obviously keep up to speed with what's going on? And you are aware of the issues facing the industry, and I think it's a worldwide thing that harness racing and any gambling code they are all struggling worldwide, but especially in South Australia with a problem that has been there for quite a while. Do you have any thoughts or assessment on the current state of harness racing in South Australia? Because I know that you do keep a close eye on most things. What are your thoughts on it? I know that you had been speaking to people over the last couple of years. Do you have any thoughts on it at the moment, or what?
Yeah.
What do you think? What's at stake, and where do you think we're heading?
Yeah. Well, first of all, just to go back a step, I think the racing industry as a whole is so important to our state. I know many people listening or watching would know that it contributes around $400 million annually to our state's economy. There are about 3,600 people who work in the industry. There are clubs of each of the codes within racing, in many, many corners of our state, really important to regional areas. And so it worries me that these issues have arisen in harness racing. I know there are difficult issues, difficult challenges for harness racing. I also know that harness racing, like every other part of the racing industry and also every other sporting code, is also, of course, dealing with all of the challenges that come with the COVID-19 crisis that our state, our world confronts. So I know it's been a really, really challenging time, and I have a view that these issues need to be resolved. The government needs to get involved in resolving these issues. The industry is really important to our state. We need our government to step up and to bring people together and sort these issues out. Which
comes back to your upbringing, as you've mentioned, with your mother and through the other organisations you worked for prior to coming into Parliament. And of course, being in Parliament now, you would realise that that's just another progression from when you first started. So I can see where you're coming from, and unless something is done, I don't know, what are your thoughts? If this has been a lingering thing, and I know you've certainly been aware of it at least 2 or 3 years, and I know you have mentioned it in Parliament and that, but if it isn't, if it isn't sorted out and it's been festering for a while, do you believe that the industry will? I mean, it's suffered enough now. I don't know what the government can or can't do, but it seems to me at the moment that everyone's sitting on their hands. So I, since I first became aware of the issues, I have been writing to the government about those issues and asking them to pay attention to them, to intervene, to help resolve these issues. In assessing the value of the racing industry, did you receive advice about the amount of government revenue generated by the industry?
So thank you. I'll clarify where you're talking about, but as far as revenues are concerned, that's a matter for the Treasurer.
So can you confirm, Minister, that you didn't receive advice about the amount of government revenue generated by the racing industry?
Government revenue Through what source are you talking about? I'm just not with you. Through what? No. Explain what source is this revenue coming from? Are you talking about income tax from people that actually work at the SAJC? Are you talking? What are you talking about? I don't understand. Please explain. No. I just need more clarification on the question, if I can, please. No. I would like clarification on the question. When you talk about revenue, I know, and I want clarification on the question. Can you just explain, please?
Well, Minister, you take a seat.
Agency received details of any modelling done on the revenue impacts of changing the rate of the betting consumption tax.
And the member for West Torrens is sitting next to you. He would know that a tax is a matter for the Treasurer. That's a matter for the Treasurer. If you've got a tax question, fire away at the Treasurer.
Receive any details of any modelling done on the revenue impacts of changing the rate of the betting consumption tax. You, as the Minister for Racing, did you receive any modelling in relation to that?
Yeah, so just to be clear, none of the tax revenue comes to my portfolio. It's a grant. It's an $8 million grant that you've outlined that comes to me as. No, but I don't tax the industry. You actually set up the tax.
Last question, probably
I
the final
understand
question.
that your racing industry fund, as you've said today, includes governance requirements for the 3 codes. What investigation has your government undertaking into the governance, financial status and operations of the South Australian Harness Racing Club?
Yeah, so just to be clear, we don't fund the Harness Racing Club, we fund Harness Racing SA, like we don't fund the SAJC or the Country Racing SA, we fund Thoroughbred Racing SA, and likewise with Greyhounds, we fund Greyhound Racing SA. So it's the actual overarching... No, listen, just to be clear, it's Greyhound Racing SA, Harness Racing SA and Thoroughbred Racing SA are the avenues that they go to. I'm happy to explain it to you later over a coffee. That's cool.
So there's an offer. Time has expired.
We want this industry to thrive. We want it to be the best that it possibly can be. It's really important to our state, to so many people in our state. The thing that I know is there is such a great deal of passion about this industry, such a lovely, lovely degree of passion for the industry, and we need to bring people together around what is important, and the government needs to help to do that and to get these issues, give the support that's needed to get these issues resolved. It's really important to the future of the industry.
Katrine, with the dialogue and letters and that you've written and emails, have you had any response from the government that you would say would have been acceptable to you or to the industry or the participants or people out there that would say, well, you know, the little Joe Bloggs that's got his horse and he takes his wife and children to the trots, he wants to know, is there light at the end of the tunnel? Because at the moment it seems to be, everybody seems to be putting their hands up in the air saying, surely something can happen. So, have you had any sort of response that you would say, well, that's fair enough, or is it sort of falling on deaf ears?
So I've had, as I said, I've written several times and raised those matters, as you mentioned, and yes, I've had some responses to my correspondence, but the issues continue to be raised. So what that says to me is that further action needs to be taken, further intervention needs to occur so that we can actually finally get them resolved.
And I think a lot of people don't realise that you're only as strong as your principal club, and it doesn't matter what you're in, what sphere of life, It's everybody's only as strong as your principal club, and it's no different than a football club with your president of your football club or your coach or whatever. The players down the bottom can do so well, but if you haven't got the leadership or whatever at the top, well, you're in a bit of pain. So, I know the industry and passion is something that we always hear, and certainly you would have dealt with some of the people within the industry. The Mario Borg from the Country Clubs Association, and when he speaks with passion, but at the end of the day, that hasn't got anything done at the moment. So, So if for argument's sake, it is resolved, or there is a resolution that one way or the other, would you think that maybe a shift from if that can't be resolved, would it be in the best interest of the harness racing to have a different headquarters, or do you think that it's absolutely necessary, because you do realise that the club or did have, I don't know if they still have contracts on the land to be sold, to be eventually, I suppose, housing. Is it a time that if it's not resolved that a new facility is put somewhere, or do you think that's getting a bit ahead of ourselves?
Yeah, so I'm probably not across the every
Dynamics, yeah.
detail
Yep.
of the current various situations that are occurring. What I'm focused on is a desire for action, a desire for intervention to get these issues resolved.
Yeah, so overall, I think that's, I think you've been very concise in everything. Someone did tell me that you're mixed up in the football league or something. Do you call the football, or
I do call the
you
football.
didn't tell me that before.
I do. As I said, I have such a passion for community support, community sport. Every code, I think, as I said before, community clubs, racing clubs are the places that bring people together right across our state. And I have loved over the past few years being part of the Southern Football League commentary team. We call local footy games on the radio.
You've got to know all the players.
Yeah, absolutely. And we have a wonderful commentary team, the captain, General, Davo and Polly. I'm Polly. And we love calling the games, and increasingly we've had feedback from a number of people who've either played in the league or been administrators of particular clubs in the past, life members at clubs who are really enjoying when they cannot, for all sorts of reasons, get along to games, still be able to stay connected to that wonderful sense of community that local footy brings. So I love it, absolutely love it, and I have many good laughs with my fellow commentators.
So you're a market leader in women's commentary in the Southern Leagues.
Thank you.
Katrine,
I must say this year we haven't been able to call games because we call our games from a radio van.
Oh, yeah.
And there's just not enough space for all of us.
Well,
so that's
year,
been a great pity. But I think we've worked out a way to call the finals. So see how we go.
Look, thank you so much for your time. I'm sure that everybody watching this would have realised your passion and your enthusiasm for everything, especially in life. And I do follow you on Facebook, and there are lots of events that you pop up in. So thank you for your time, and let's hope that you can help assist the industry in getting a resolution and for the industry to grow. And as you said, that one word, passion, I think is paramount in this industry. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me today. And can I also say to everybody in the industry, thank you so much for that passion for the industry. It's extraordinary and it's really appreciated. And thank you again for having me.
Thank you.